My best friend since 7th grade is getting married today. I was not invited. All these years almost everyone else in my life has said she was a terrible friend, and I never believed. Reddit. Have you ever had a dang everyone was right and I was wrong moment? If one of your major feelings upon being unfriended is relief, that is a clear sign that the friendship wasn't worth it. I've felt this too, and it really is liberating after you get over having your feelings hurt. If there is one thing I've learned throughout my almost 36 years on this planet, it's that friends drift apart. I've noticed that around every 10 years or so I have a whole new set of friends. I still keep in contact with a few here and there and even rekindle friendships, but they're never as strong as they used to be. It's not a sad thing. It's just something that happens. We get new jobs, start families, and move to other parts of the world. I'm happy and content knowing that I've known those people I don't talk to anymore and appreciate the stories that I have to tell from good and even bad times that we had. I guess the best advice I have is that you're going to get over it and move on. Just remember the good times that you had with this person and enjoy the rest of your time on this rock. A friend was having a Thanksgiving party and wanted all my friends but me to attend. She hated me for some reason. She told all my friends to not speak about it to me, but still invited them. I caught wind of this and got kinda sad over it and told my friends they should still go. They threw a Thanksgiving party that day for me and ditched her party. Good friends you have there. Frick the other one. I had this friend Chad who had a lot of money, was attractive, and had a lot of cool stuff, but he was a huge douche. Throughout middle and high school, he would take advantage of my naivety and get me to do things for him with no repayment. One day, he invited me to his lake house. I could drive. He couldn't. He sent me the address to his lake house 7 hours away with girls. I drove there, only to find out that he and 2 girls had had a threesome and were both hammered in some remote abandoned shed that wasn't his. I was called to bring food and be the designated driver. I drove them back in the middle of the night, dropped the girls off at their place, and dropped Chad off at the police station. He was too high on some drugs to know what was going on. Frick you, Chad. I'm sorry op, I had a similar issue in high school and it took me 3 years to realize she was a crappy friend. Frick you and your flaky ways, Christina. Eat a bag of dongs, Christina. The only thing consistent with her fricked up stories was she was an aggressive victim. She sought out those kind of relationships. Everyone told me she was a skank, but I fell for her stories of abuse. When I started behaving unlike I normally would, I realized it was her manipulation. I was her go-to guy between freaked up situations. Each time, my world got turned upside down. I lost friends, dropped out of school and gave up everything. Luckily I never married her or had children with her. After 17 years she contacted me again. She has 6 kids by 5 fathers and just had another divorce. Frick you, Annie. I have seen my friend frick anything that moves, cheat on his longtime girlfriend many times, pee on people's crap while drunk, get into random fights, drove a car into a tree with a car full of people because a girl in the car wouldn't have sex with him, etc. Point is he had shown a pattern of very bad behavior. I defended him because of his very abusive childhood, his alcoholism and depression. Everyone hated him and went out of their way to avoid him. Always told me he was a dong. 6 months ago I found my long-term live-in girlfriend and him half naked at his house. The worst moment of my life. Whenever a situation like that comes up, I don't know whether to be more angry at the significant other or the friend. I dated a horrible person. He was a compulsive liar, a cheater, manipulative and rude. Everyone else saw this and knew this, but it was like I had blinders on for a while. The thing is, nobody said anything to me at the time. Not family, not my best friend, nobody. After we broke up, everyone went thank God, you're so much better off. I hated that butthole. One friend even told me they were considering not speaking to me until I broke up with him at one point. I value the opinions of other people and it would have been nice to have this insight while I was dating the loser. Feels bad man. I've given up trying to talk to my friends about the crappy people they're dating because they never listen and all I end up hearing is the same set of rationalizations over and over. It's infuriating to watch sometimes, but I know trying to talk to them about it is useless, so I just wait it out and have a few drinks with them when the eventual breakup happens. My best friend stole every GF I had in junior high. When he couldn't steal my high school GF of 3 years, he told her I was cheating so she would sleep with him. Looking back, he was a crappy friend and I seemed like a doormat. Wow dude. Sounds to me like he sailed over the crappy friend line in a freaking rocket ship. She was my friend since middle school. She was always very nice to me, always talking and whatnot. I helped her pass all of our English classes since 8th grade all the way to 12th grade. We graduated. She went to the same college as I did but broke all type of communication with me. Always went the opposite direction when she saw me in the hallways. I found out 3 months ago that she dropped out of college, that she was married, invited all of our other friends to the wedding, and that she was 5 months pregnant. Apparently she said to a friend of mine and hers that the reason that she stopped talking to me was because she found God and told her to stay away from people who like goth rock metal music because they worship the devil. B just used me to pass middle school and high school and doesn't have the ovaries to say it. Frick you, Dalibeth. At least you can be happy knowing that you don't have a ridiculous fricking name. I attempted suicide about 13 months ago. I refused to get on antidepressants because I didn't want to have to take a pill every day to be okay. Everyone told me that they're not so bad. I eventually ended up trying them this summer and my whole outlook on life has changed. I wouldn't say I'm over my depression, but I'm okay with it at this point, and for the first time in quite a while, I'm okay with waking up each day and living. TLDR. Antidepressants. They're not so bad. Good for you. I had the same stigma about antidepressants until it was clearly explained to me that a chemical imbalance was the source of my depression, and the pills basically corrected it. Be sure you don't stop taking them when you start feeling better. Make sure it's a doctor that recommends you stop. I say this from hard, valuable life experience. I broke up with a guy after a year and a half because I was sick of him putting me down emotionally for my personal preferences. He made fun of the bands I liked, the movies I liked, the banal television I liked, and he hated the internet. He was super freaking paranoid about me talking to people online and other stuff. He would tell me that I was stupid for watching mindless television, which is super enjoyable sometimes. We all have guilty pleasures. He was also a vegetarian and would be a dong whenever I ate meat. However, when I was mad at him, he would buy me fancy burgers from a place down the street. What a frick, man. I was such an emotionless void of a human. By the end I was just like, I'm done with this. I'm done with you. Please move out. Breaking up with him was so freaking liberating, and I won't ever put up with bulls like that again. Friend of mine was consistently a dong to my then girlfriend, now wife, ignoring her when she spoke, being demeaning. Me, knowing this guy for years, telling her the whole time that's just him being his usual self. Don't take it personally, because, well, that's how he'd literally always been to everyone. Well, anyway, time goes by, and this guy gets his pilot's license, a plane, and experience, and he asks me to go flying with him in his little prop job setup. Now, I'm terrified of heights, so this is kind of a big deal for me. Initially, I say no, and heck no, but he manages to wear down my resistance by regaling me with stories of his flights and the view. So finally I relent. I'm going flying. My lady knew I was nervous about this, but supported my decision to face my fear, even if it meant hanging out with this guy. She had earlier decided to absent herself from our get-togethers, but was totally okay with me hanging out with him. Comes the day of the flight. Guy was supposed to call me when he landed at the local airport, sometime around 9 in the morning. 10 o'clock, no call, so I send him a text message checking in and confirming that I had the day right. No response. An hour or so later, I call him. No response. Eventually, I just give up on calling and move on with my day. I knew he wasn't dead on a mountain, because his online status kept changing in whatever messenger program we were using at the time. Away, online, idle, online, but zero response from him there. 2-3 weeks later, this guy calls me up out of the blue, wanting to hang out. When I asked him why he didn't bother to call or let me know what was going on, On the day of the flight, he was evasive as all heck, and I got no details. Though I suspect he was smuggling something. In retrospect, this dude was shady as frick. This same guy turned on me at one point and decided that I had somehow embarrassed him at his workplace by submitting a resume there, via him, at his request. I tried to talk to him, but he's freaking delusional and cannot accept that his wildly at odds with reality viewpoint isn't accurate. Frick you, Chris. TL. DR. Dude is a dong to my GF. I defend him, then he ramps up the dickishness until I can't handle it and give up. Then he decides it's all somehow my fault. Frick you, Chris. As a Chris, I am somewhat relieved that I don't fly planes. Your friend sounds like a former friend of mine. I had been friends with this girl since 6th grade. I was the first person she told she was pregnant, and my mom and I helped her figure out how to tell her parents since she wasn't married. I was in her wedding. Drove 5 hours from college to be there. I was there for the birth of her child, again drove 5 hours to be there before her daughter was born. I was there for her through her divorce and subsequent wild phase. I didn't try to stop her, but I made sure she was protecting herself against another pregnancy or an STD. Then in 2010 when I got engaged, I wanted her in my wedding. I mean, we were best friends. She was uber excited and everything was great. Fast forward to January 2011, 4 months before my wedding, and all of a sudden is she not going to be in my wedding and she won't even be attending, period. Her boyfriend was graduating the night before about 10 hours away and she wanted to attend his graduation instead. She also told me that his family was going to be throwing them a wedding shower that weekend, even though they weren't and still aren't engaged. I was beyond furious. She knew before Christmas that she wasn't even going to be there and waited until 4 months before my wedding to tell me. And she chose a freaking graduation over attending her supposed best friend's wedding. And that wedding shower never even happened. And she still isn't engaged to him and it's been over a year since. If she didn't want to be in the wedding, that's fine. One of my husband's friends just wanted to be a guest, but he told us up front, no problem. But for over a year, this friend of mine was supposed to be in the wedding and then all of a sudden wouldn't even attend. At that point, I just said screw it. I was tired of being the better friend. I'll say hello to her in public if I see her, but I don't talk to her anymore. It still hurts, though, because we were friends for over 11 years at this point and she didn't even care. I once tried to pronounce the word misled as measeld, as in I thought it was an action word that a miser might do. I kept this stubbornly up for most of a day before we could pull out a dictionary and see that I was painfully wrong. My friends didn't forget. Also my ex-girlfriend who kept me in a relationship via emotional blackmail by threatening to kill herself if I were to leave her. My friends were always telling me I should break up with her, but I kept it up for 3 miserable years. One of these things is not like the other. My ex. We met in 9th grade. We started going out during 10th grade. My friends and sister said he was an butthole, but of course I didn't believe them. He dumped me 3 months later because I was sexually inexperienced at the old age of 14. Butthole. Something similar happened to me recently. My ex-roommate was my best friend for 4 years. We met freshman year of college. She was tall, statuesque and blonde. I'm short and brunette. She always outshone me, regardless of the situation. She spoke over top of me constantly and then expected me to cater to her when she was feeling bad. Every single day she would come home and BF me about how crappy her day was. She talked me into doing a bunch of things that I couldn't particularly afford. She even guilted me into getting a dog after I'd told her numerous times I wasn't ready to have one. She dropped out of college after being put on academic suspension and joined the Navy. She got an attitude about the college we went to, blaming it for her dropping out and not her own inability to focus. She lied about her age constantly, even got a job as a bartender before she was 21 because she could charm the pants off the poop. Whenever I told her I thought it was wrong, she would become livid and start accusing me of belittling her. We moved across the city 5 times in 1 year, once because she wanted to follow or get away from her previous boyfriends. My mother ended up lending her a lot of money for deposits, rent, food, etc. Now my mother has basically liquidated her 401k and there is no money left. Whenever I would talk to my mother about her, She would mention that it seemed like I was afraid of my roommate, like I had to answer to her. And you know what? My mother was right. I was afraid of my roommate. In the end, when I attempted to stand up for myself after she'd decided she was going to let her current boyfriend, who earned $40k a year, live in our house rent-free for 3 months, I turned into the bad guy. She put locks on everything and prepared to move out. She took the television I'd bought from her when she needed money, a whole bunch of other knickknacks that belonged to me, and my recently dead dog's food. Overall, I'm glad this happened. Now I'm much stronger for it. It doesn't change the fact that I was culpable in letting her control my life, but now I know how to never let that happen again. TLDR. My ex-roommate ex-best friend used to rule my life. Didn't really realize it until I stood up for myself and she proceeded to screw me over. Last year, my junior of high school, I asked this cheerleader to homecoming and he said yes. Ecstatic, I told all my friends. They all warned me that she was a mega bee or queen bee, but I just thought they were all jealous. Then, about a month goes by. It's days before the dance and she tells me that she has a cheerleading conflict. I found it hard to believe, but I decided to give her the benefit of the doubt. So, the day after the dance, all my friends said that she was there with a guy from another school having the time of her life. She didn't even give me time to find another date. And to make matters worse, she bragged to all her friends that she stood me up then. Suddenly, it occurred to me that she wasn't just a mega bee or queen bee but rather super bee of the freaking universe. TLDNR. Girls said she'd go to homecoming with me. Friends says she was a bee. Stood me up 3 days before the dance. Went with another guy. Realized she was a total bee. Dated a girl for 3.5 years. People wouldn't tell me to my face that she was a horrible person to me, but I could tell looking back that this is how they saw things. Right at the end of the relationship, she started to get so cold to the point where she wouldn't communicate with me, wouldn't interact with me, and generally was just pushing me away. I finally had enough and ended it and poured my heart and emotions out to her. She replied with a okay, and that was that. 4 weeks later and we had some sporadic contact, mostly meaningless, but I guess I was hoping that something would change between us. She called me up to tell me that she was bringing a friend to church that week. Turns out this was some guy she met while playing EverQuest who lived across the country. I heard later she was all over him, acting like she never did with me. She moved to New Jersey to be with him and he paid for her to go to an expensive school and now they're married. I should have definitely paid attention when everybody else was giving me these signs that she was a terrible person to me and had the self-confidence to move on with my life. She probably just liked the attention you gave her. I had a friend for the past 10 years who was always a bit of an butthole, in the Doctor House sense of the word. However, he and 2 others in the group were my friends, and since I could put up with his sarcasm, it was whatever. Anyway, my girlfriend and female friends all hated him. I just figured it was BC he is unattractive, fat, obnoxious. Edit, I mean an initially off-putting person, not just physically unattractive, and that I spent many nights hanging out with him, prompting jealousy. My girlfriend and I had a sizable number of fights throughout the past 4 years that went something like her being less than enthused when I was going to hang out with him, me accusing her of not wanting me to see my friends, her saying friends is fine and she just thinks he's bad for me. Anyway, a year ago, he didn't invite me out for New Year's, even though we had plans to all go out bar hopping. GF was out of town, so I was just by myself and confused as to why they were all ignoring me. After talking to him about what went on, he listed off tons of reasons he disliked me, including that I talked about girlfriend my life at college too much, the fact that I would sometimes vent about family issues while others in the group had it much worse, read, divorced parents, and some other crap. Anyway, after hearing all of this, we are no longer friends. I guess my desire to have guy friends overrode my better judgment on which friends to have. I had a similar scenario arise recently with one of my best friends from college. The thing is, the guy didn't even have a problem with me. He and one of my other friends ended on bad terms before graduation and haven't talked since. So my friend getting married understandably didn't invite him. However, he didn't invite me either, because I'm too close to the other friend. It sucks, but at least it seems like you're not letting it bother you. which is all you can do really. Turns out, I do actually look great with a beard. More compliments in a 3-week period than I've received almost my entire life. I hope this isn't buried because it was one of the most devastating things that has happened to me. When I was in high school, I ran cross country. There was possibly nothing more in this world that I felt more passionate about than my running and cross. It had given me a purpose and taught me more about myself than anyone could have taught me, and it propelled me through school, focusing me and keeping me on track. Our team wasn't amazing, but I was determined to be great. I was told that it was because our coach was terrible. I wouldn't hear it. I defended him every single time. Without my dad in the picture for most of the time, I always looked up to him as a father. In my senior year, I got injured pretty badly. I was depressed, but still determined to go to state. I trained in the pool for hours each day. During that time, one of the runners I had gotten better than started putting me down behind my back to the entire team. There were several different things he did that were constituted punishable by the student contract he signed. Basically, he should have been kicked off the team and suspended from school for several weeks for things he did to the team and to me personally. He wasn't. The coach not only never talked to me during my injury when I was depressed, but he sided with the punk because he had a shot at state with me out of the picture. I felt that the coach had left me in the dark, but only after stabbing me in the back. I was crushed. For 4 years I had talked to him every single day in his art class and at practice. After cross, I realized how wrong I was for putting my trust in that man, and I have yet to have talked to him. That was one of the toughest things to mentally go through that I had to deal with. But I pushed on and now run D1 cross and track in college. Everyone was right about this coach I looked up to as a father. I was so wrong. As a fellow cross runner, not a lot of people understand the amount of time and energy that is put into training for cross. Much respect, and keep kicking up those hills. A girl I was friends with from middle school onward started dating a total douchebag that I had known since elementary school. It was all cool at first until she started ditching days with me for her boyfriend. Eventually, her bigot, narrow-minded boyfriend convinced her I was a bad person because I felt she ought to be free to sexually express herself. She dropped me like a bad habit after a bout of miscommunication between us, and now she's engaged. My free-spirited, gay pride-supporting, video game playing, book-loving ex-best friend is engaged to a gun-toting, gay-bashing, misogynistic, women should be barefoot in the kitchen dow chickeno. I hope things work out for them though. I'm sure he will be fine. Everyone told me my ex was crazy. I of course didn't believe them until she cheated on me. Then I took her back. Epic fail. She dumped me, got a new BF, then spent 3 years telling me she was still in love with me, whilst dating other guys and cheating on them. TLDR. Don't stick your dong in crazy. I walked in on my ex doing his roommate. Calls me 10 years later from out of state to say he's getting married and wants me to know I was the one that got away. Told him to tell that to his new fiancée. Everybody told me it would be a mistake to date her. Did it anyway. I was miserable for half the relationship before I finally said enough is enough. Best decision of my life. Just about the same. I used to be best friends with this girl. Did just about everything for her and with her, but after about 7 years of friendship, she cut complete contact with me for her boyfriend that left her in another state to smoke M in Arizona. He didn't like me, so she just tossed me aside like the 7 years I looked after her and her collection of butthole boyfriends never existed. Everyone told me she was just a druggie that couldn't be trusted, and that she was a horrid person, but she always seemed kind to me. Looking back, she always took advantage of my kindness and used everyone. Feels bad, man. I had a friend like that. We were as close as can be in high school. We did everything together. I was often over at his house and he at mine. When we went to college we went to different schools, but we got together at holidays and such. Then in sophomore year he got into a fraternity. Then it started changing. I was no longer in the loop with him. I'd come home for a holiday and we wouldn't even see each other. A few years after college he got married. It was a bit awkward for me not to be invited to the wedding as some of our mutual friends that had been in T fraternity with him were invited, but I wasn't. Cut to a few years later, My friend had moved away and I didn't have any contact with him. A mutual friend and I are having dinner one night with our wives. Who sits at the table next to us? My old friend and his family. Nobody said a word. No acknowledgement of each other is made. My mutual friend and I are at the table talking back and forth saying, so does he know it's us and just not want to say anything to us, or is he waiting for us to say something? The whole meal it continued like this and my old friend's family got up to leave the table. I was content to just let him go without saying a word. My mutual friend, however, grabbed my old friend's arm as he was passing our table. There was an exchange of pleasantries, but I could tell he had seen us all along and simply didn't want to say hi. To make matters even more awkward, my female cousin ended up marrying my old friend's brother, so there were several repeats of this sort of exchange. I'm in a similar situation. I have a friend that I've known since 1990. I invited him to go to my wedding in Anaheim. He said he couldn't go because it was too far and too expensive. I found out just recently he is planning to go to Vegas that same weekend, and that trip was planned well after he was invited to my wedding. I was mad about it for a bit until I realized he was never a good friend. He was the one friend that would compete with everyone else on everything. The newest Indiana Jones movie. All my friends said it was terrible. All of the reviews said it was terrible. But, surely Lucas wouldn't destroy Indiana Jones? I mean, it had Harrison Ford. Well, everyone else was right. I was wrong. Frick. My former best friend got married today. I was not invited. Not that I'm bitter or anything, but I hope her dress caught fire. My now ex-boyfriend was going to propose to me. I was definitely going to say yes, but people in my life were pretty sure I was out to change him, even though I never felt that was the case. Well, he would always tell me what a coward he was, etc, etc. But I always pulled him out of his bad ruts and we always put a band-aid on the wound. But it turned out we were just trading band-aids over and over until finally he just backed out. He used a really cheap excuse to get out of the relationship and to take back everything he said he ever felt about us. Essentially, he proved himself to me that he was a coward. TLDR. Everyone else in my life recognized that my boyfriend was unstable except me until now. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.